Hey, it is Xennial Gamer, and we're here with the long overdue Light Dark account showcase. But before we jump into the video, I do want to post the winners. We had 4 people win entries into the Transcendent Scroll giveaway, so those are posted on screen now. Also, one of our subscribers, KYYK Gaming, he is starting a Tagalog-speaking Summoner's War channel, and he asked if I could mention it in the video here, so I'm going to, and I put his name on screen as well. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into the monster review. We're going to start right out with Belladeon, the 2A Light Inagami, and you'll see that I'm actually in Revenge, Nemesis Blade. We're in Speed, Defense, and HP, and I use Bella in a couple of places. I use Bella in a Dimensional Hole team, the Karzan for rune farming. Okay, your first chance to win an entry in this video, first of 4. Pick a number between 1 and a million. Leave it in the comments below. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. global server time, whoever's closest is going to win an entry. I do use Bella in Guild War from time to time, and I also use Bella in Labyrinth in the Gilis team. Okay, next we're going to go to Shamann. I actually just did a big video on Shamann, so I won't spend too long on this, but I will tell you that I used Shamann in Siege on a 2-man today, and it worked beautifully. Oh, and as far as the runes go, and these are all shown in depth in the video actually, but we're in Double Blade and Door, we're in Speed, Crit Damage, and HP. Okay, next up we've got Darion. I really haven't used Darion in a very long time. He was originally just in my R5 team before I went to BJ R5, but this is our build. We're in Blade Revenge Fight, and the fight runes are actually left over from the R5 days. So we're in HP, just triple HP build, as tanky as we could get him. Okay, next up we've got Groggo, and my Groggo is going to be in Defense, HP. We're in Shield Will Revenge. I like the Shield Will Revenge for monsters that I use in the way of Groggo, which is basically he's a siege monster, and he's used to tank monsters that do big single hits. Think of like an Odin type. I also use Groggo to tank Martinez, which obviously is not a big single hitter, but the Martinez, usually when they're built super fast, they don't do a ton of damage. And so they actually have to hit him like 15 times. You'll notice he's also in a resistance build, and the main reason for the resistance is the use against those Martinez. Okay, next up we've got the first of, it's actually going to be 3 Lins, but only 2 of them are runed. And she's going to be in Violent Shield, Attack, Crit Damage, Attack. Now, somebody commented on one of the other videos that Lin does not need to be in attack runes. 100% accurate. Just in case you don't know, like 90-95% of Lin's damage actually comes from the crit damage, which you can see this Lin is very low crit damage, by the way. So there's a few different ways to build Lin. You can put Lin in Rage, or you could put her in Violent. I think those are the only 2 viable builds for me personally. The Rage is going to give you the hardest hitting possible Lin. The Violent gives you a little bit of dirt protection because all 3 of her skills hit really hard when you're using her in dungeon farming. And then you could literally use any runes for the slot 2, 4, and 6. All that matters is that you're speed tuning her, but you could totally use HP runes on your slot 2, 4, 6. You could also do a resistance build if you're going into GB10 and you have like a slot 6 resistance rune that's got a lot of crit damage on it. That's actually a decent build because it helps her resist the defense break. Okay, next up we've got my Jeanne. Jeanne is going to be in Violent Energy. She's currently on one of my siege defenses. I almost never use her in offense, and she's a great offense monster. So it's just one of those things where I think she probably doesn't fit my playstyle and I forget about her a lot. But I will point out she's got 53 accuracy. A lot of people forget to put accuracy on their Jeannes, and that's really important. The whole point of Jeanne is to provoke the enemy team. You could even argue that my accuracy is too low with her. Okay, next up we've got Amarna, and he's going to be in Destroy Will Blade. We're in Speed, Crit Damage, and HP. And so I've had some long discussions through comments and other videos about Amarna. I'm not a huge fan. I know a lot of people say he's like a Nat 6. Any one of these skills, they're all amazing. The skill 1 to have defense break and HP block is awesome. The skill 2, the brand and the multiplier, you know, they're all awesome skills, but none of them are the best at what they do. And that's really what it amounts to is there's better revivers, there's better healer cleansers, there's better branders. He does a lot of stuff, but he doesn't do any of it better than anyone else. So there usually winds up being better replacements for him. So he is hands down the best raid monster in the game. If you haven't gotten to BJR5 yet, Frontline Raid, that is where he truly, truly shines. Outside of that, he's also a really good dimensional hole monster, and so he's actually runed for me for dimensional hole teams. Okay, next up we've got my first Loren. She's in a pretty straightforward violent revenge build. We're in speed, HP, HP. Okay, next up we have Tien Qin. I'll use him once in a blue moon in Siege, but he's primarily a dimensional hole farmer for me. He's in my Tartarus Hell team, so he's in a build that it's going to look a little bit not like what you'd expect. He's actually in speed, attack, HP. And his crit damage is high because he's in a rage set and we have some good rage and subs. So again, we're in a kind of tanky hybrid build because I'm using him for PvE auto teams. And then we want him to be able to do enough damage output that those PvE auto teams will eventually kill something. Okay, now we've got my first Fran. This one's going to be in Violent Will, speed, HP, HP. Made a big point of getting a lot of attack in the substats because Fran's heal is based off of attack. It'd be nice if she had more resistance, or if I couldn't give her more resistance, it would be nice if I could take that resistance and turn it into something else, because 50 resistance is kind of wasted. I've mentioned this in other videos. It's too low to really have much beneficial effect, and it's a lot of wasted stats and subs. Okay, next up we have my Dova. He's going to be in Swift Broken. And this is just, I use him once every 3 to 6 sieges for a 2-man Lucian team. If the right opportunity presents itself, you go Dova Lucian on a 2-man and a 4-star siege base. Next up, we have Mimirr. This is one of my most used monsters overall, period. For you guys who watch my siege videos, you know I use him every single siege. Pretty much use him every single guild war. Mimirr is just an amazing monster. And he pairs so well with Loren. The combination of Mimirr and Loren is just crazy OP. Okay, so he's going to be in speed, crit damage, and attack. Obviously, this is about 100, I think 101% efficiency rune set, so it's in my top 10 or 15 rune sets. And he just, he's one of my favorite monsters to use, honestly. Okay, next up we have Elsharion. We're in a 222 set on speed, crit damage, and HP. I don't use my Elsharion a lot. Maybe once every like 10 sieges, the right opportunity will arise, or once in a blue moon in Guild War or something. Elsharion is a really good monster. It's just one, like I've mentioned with some others, maybe it doesn't fit my playstyle or I forget about him a lot. Now I have used him in some PvE content as well. He's a nice counter in the Wind Kairos dungeon. He's also, if you give him much better runes, he's a great defense monster in Siege Deep. Okay, next up we have Magnum, and this is a monster that has literally one use in the game. It counters Bastet Lucian, and it has to be those two monsters. Well, actually, it can counter Bastet Julie also. But its only use is to counter an attack bar booster that gives at least 2 buffs against an AoE super squishy nuker. Now, if you're not familiar with him, he's the light sniper, and his passive increases the attack bar by 25% whenever an enemy gains a beneficial effect from a skill. So that's why it has to be at least 2 buffs. If you were to use him against an enemy that gives just 1 buff, he gains 100% attack bar, but because you're ruining him to be super slow and hit super hard, that's usually not enough for him to steal a turn. So he will work against, I said just Bastet, he'd work against Fran, he works against Wusa, he works against Garo, anything that gives 2 buffs, basically. And then in this particular build we're in right here, which is going to be Will, Energy, Focus, it's attack, crit damage, and attack. He does about, I want to say about 16,000 damage here. In this build we have on screen right here, he does about 19,000 damage, which is enough, like I said, to kill Lucians and Julies, but not reliably enough to kill even like a Mina or a Daphne. So Magnum is literally a counter to 2 monsters in the game, but those 2 monsters are used in a lot of cleave teams, so he is a super effective counter. Basically what you're going to do is when you're building your anti-cleave team in RTA, you take whatever 4 monsters you want to counter that cleave and pull Magnum as your final pick, and he's a force ban. So it only works against the Julie Lucian cleaves, but it does let you pick any anti-cleave team you want. Okay, next up we have Icasha, and the rune set that I have her on here was something I wanted to test a long time ago that, to be honest, I think I ruined her and then forgot to even test it. I don't even remember what anymore, but she's in double focus energy. She has the only place I've ever used her is in ToA with her 3-turn invincibility. It's a nice way to tank against like the ragdoll stage. Okay, next up we have the second Lin. So we're going to be in attack, crit damage, attack. Everything I said earlier about the rune choices still applies. This was just the build that I went with because it did the most damage. Okay, we have our second Fran. This one is going to be in Swift Endure. She's in Speed, HP again. Overall build is very similar to the last Fran. She's just, about 20 speed faster. And I built this one because I needed to speed tune her with like my Beast Riders and a couple of monsters that are faster than the other Fran, but slower than 271. Okay, next up we've got Lucas. He's going to be in Fatal Determination, attack, crit damage, attack. I actually built him to test him in the Rift Beast, and he did an okay job. I think he needs better runes. I built him off of runes in inventory rather than doing it like on an FRR, and he might be able to be a damage upgrade for me on like Dark Rift Beast. Okay, next up we have Loren. This is my BJR5 Loren. I pulled her out just so you guys could actually see the build. She's going to be an attack, crit rate, HP. Got enough effective HP to survive, and she does add quite a bit of damage to the BJR team, so I thought you might be interested. Okay, next up we have Iona, and she's going to be in triple HP, Violent Guard. I use her for my Tartarus auto team, and I have toyed with her a little bit in some Siege content, but if I were going to use her in PvP, I'd need to put her into more of a resistance build. The lack of resistance for your primary healer reviver just makes it difficult in PvP. Okay, next up we have Mihael. She's going to be in Violent Will. She is in Speed, HP, and Defense. Mihael's a really fun monster. To be honest, I had forgotten about her. I haven't used her in ages. We just get into habits of using the same types of monsters and teams. But anyway, the violent build for her is really strong because her skill 3 is on a 3-turn cooldown. Her skill 2 is on a 3-turn cooldown. So one proc just changes everything. She's got the ability to reset an enemy monster with attribute neutrality. So she's a great counter to things like Samantha and Perna. AoE heal with a defense buff, which is really useful on just most of your teams in general. And the skill 1 is a total waste, but that's okay because the rest of her kit is so good. Okay, next up we've got Iris. And I've got the Iris in Despair Revenge, which is the normal build for Iris. We're going to be in Speed, HP. Okay, next up we've got Jultan. He's going to be in Shield Will Nemesis. The Nemesis could be anything, but the Shield Will build is really nice for Guild War. I use Jultan all the time in Guild War and Siege. He's a great counter to almost all light monsters, and especially to Loren. So anyway, we're going to be in HP, of course, because it's Jultan. Okay, next up we've got Miho. She's going to be in Vampire Nemesis, Speed, Crit Damage, Attack. I think I've mentioned this as well. I personally feel like Vampire is the only viable build for Miho. I know there's like this new fad of doing violent Mihos. I even lost a Guild War match to a Miho that went like 4 times yesterday. But I don't see it for consistent usage. Maybe on defense, because violent on defense is always the best rune set. But if you're using your Miho for anything else, the thing is, the Vampire is what actually makes Miho so hard to kill. Otherwise, they put you at 1 HP, and eventually you die to like a Fran or to a Bastet or something that does multi-hits with low damage. But if it's Miho versus Fran one-on-one, and then Miho heals off Fran, the Fran can never get Miho back down to that 1 HP position again. I don't use Miho very much at all. She's a siege defense monster for me, and that's pretty much it. She's got a better build for me in RTA, and I'm using her in Special League now, but I won't actually use her in RTA. I'm only using her in Special League. I feel like she's kind of an overrated monster, to be honest. Okay, next up we've got Crow. I use Crow in all of my rifts as well as the GB10 team. We're going to be in Rage Fight, Attack, Crit Damage, Attack. Next up we've got Camaryn. I use her in Siege once in a while. We're going to be, again, in Attack, Crit Damage, and Attack. And she's a really nice skill resetter in a 4-star base. If you're up against like a lot of Aegir, Skogul, Triana defenses, she can reset the Triana, reset the Aegir, and kind of gain control. And next up is another opportunity to win an entry into the Transcendent Scroll giveaway. In the comments below, please name one monster that you think should be the next 2A. Now name the specific monster, not the type, so like Spectra, not Griffin. And then tell me what you think the core skill upgrade should be. I'm going to pick the monster that I think sounds like it has the coolest new skill that will be the most fun to play with, but that's also balanced. So it's not just like skill 3 automatically kills everything, right? It should be a monster that would really be challenging to use in gameplay, but also be a lot of fun. Okay, next up we've got Veremos, who's going to be in Termination, Nemesis, Focus. We're going to be in Speed, HP, Attack. This is another monster I use in Dimensional Hole. Okay, next up we've got Hellea. She's going to be in Double Focus, Revenge, Attack, Crit Damage, Attack. I use Hellea in the team that I use to farm the Water Essence in the Kairos Dungeons. That's the only place I use Hellea. Hellea is by far and away going to be the monster that really can give you that top speed because she combines Defense, Break, and Brand together. But for consistency, the AI on her is just terrible. And so you're not going to want to put her in a farming team usually. You're just going to want to put her in there if you're trying to set a best time. Okay, next up we've got Thrain. He's going to be in Violent Accuracy, Speed, HP. He's a ToA H monster. Next up we've got Mantura. He's going to be in Despair, Focus, Speed, HP. I use Mantura in ToA. I use him in Hall of Heroes. I use him in Labyrinth. I do use him in PvP occasionally. I'm using him in Special League right now. Actually just beat a Guardian player with Mantura earlier today. So I've mentioned before, I think Mantura is an extremely underrated monster. I will mention, though, most of the time I use him just because he's fun. He does the same thing Galleon does, but not as well. So, I mean, realistically, it does... not exactly, because he does AoE damage with a chance to stun on Despair. Galleon does AoE with no damage, so no chance to stun, but it gives you an attack buff. It's kind of the same net result. Mantura is just more fun because he has a cool animation. Okay, so next up we have Janssen just for BJR5, triple fight. Because of the OCD, I actually did skill mine up. And next up we have Ran. She's going to be in Vampire Will, Speed, Crit Damage, Attack. Ran is just for me a siege monster that I use once in a while. Next up we have Eirgar. He's going to be in Violent Fight, Attack, Crit Damage, and Attack. Eirgar is used for me just in the rifts, basically. Next up, we've got Diaz. He's going to be in Energy, Shield, Endure, HP, Defense, HP. Diaz is a great R5 monster if you're not doing BJR5 yet. I mostly just use him in Siege, and he's in just like a once every few sieges, mostly just kind of messing around type thing. But he is very effective in Siege. I don't think I've actually lost any of the fights with him. I use him selectively, but he does really well for me when I use him there. Okay, next up we've got Aschubel. She's going to be... he is going to be in Speed, Defense, HP. This build is really for Siege, and I almost never use it. I do use Aschubel in Special League, and I've got a better, faster build, obviously, in Special League. Okay, next up we have Bethony. We're going to be in Rage, Energy, Attack, Crit Damage, Attack. Bethany is just a terrible, terrible monster. Don't build her. Don't ruin her. Don't get excited if you get her like I did. I was so happy, and she's awful. Too much RNG, and even when the RNG succeeds in your favor, the damage isn't really enough. She's ruined only because I was using her in the Light Essence dungeon for farming because my Covenant was too fast. Okay, next up we have Amduat. As bad as Bethany is, Amduat is that good. Amduat is just a freaking amazing monster. A lot of fun to play with. I strongly recommend a crit damage build if you've got good enough runes for him. So we're going to be in Despair Will, Speed, Crit Damage, and HP. That's the build I would go with. If you can't get enough stats in there, though, then just go Speed, HP. Stick with the Despair Will. I've tried him on Despair Revenge and Nemesis, and for like guild content, that's okay because it's kind of a controlled environment. So if you're taking him in Special League, now that we have our... or even RTA, he's better in Special League, like in a 4-star or a 20, 4-star and below or a 20-star Special League, he's really strong. In RTA, he's situational, but he can still be good. So if you're taking him into those places, then you're going to really need to make sure he's in Will. If you're just using him for guild content, then you could go with Revenge and it would be just as good, but you definitely want the Despair runes. This is the general type of build you want. You could go for maybe a little bit more accuracy and a little bit more crit rate. And he definitely would be nice to be faster, so it all depends on rune quality and what you're able to build. Okay, next up we have Hyanes. I've got her runed right now in a very weird set. It's going to be Attack, Crit Damage, Attack, Despair Focus, and it's because even though the lead is actually Speed in Guild War, I'm building her to use her in ToA. I'm actually building her to pair her with Water Homunculus. I built her a couple of weeks ago, tested her out for this ToA, and it didn't really... I mean, it worked. I didn't lose, but it wasn't like as exciting as I kind of was hoping it would be. She's got a really interesting kit, but it's another one of those kits that just doesn't kind of fit together well. Okay, next up is, it's kind of funny because if I move this over, you'll see there's 2 demons on screen. Until 5 days ago, I had no demons. And then I literally pulled Beelzebub like 5 days ago, my first LD5. And then right after that, I pulled Bale, who I haven't finished leveling yet. Bale has got to be like the worst Nat 5 in the game. It's maybe not the worst, but he's way down there. I definitely won't rune or use him. But okay, so let's talk about Beelzebub. You can see that he's not runed in the game since he's brand new. I'm going to switch over to the Special League team. We'll look at the rune set that we're in now, and we'll talk about him a little bit. So this is unfortunate. World Arena is under maintenance, and it is almost midnight here, so I am not going to be able to wait for maintenance. So when I first got him, I initially tried him in Vampire, which seemed like the logical build, because when he dies and gets to 1 HP, you want to heal back to health. What I found is that people understand the mechanics of the game and they don't attack him, so Vampire was a complete waste of a build for him. He never got attacked, so he never needed to heal. So then I tried switching him over to Violent, and although the procs were helpful, occasional procs were helpful, I still was running into the same issue. People basically ignore him, and his skill 1 doesn't do much damage. And since most people don't attack him, the second skill really shouldn't even be used unless you've died and resurrected. So the focus has all been about trying to find ways to do more damage with the first skill. So I just switched him over to a Rage set. He's now an attack crit damage attack in the biggest Rage set that I can give him. Haven't actually tested him in Special League yet, so I'm not sure if it's going to be enough damage for him to get any kills. But that was the kind of natural progression of the different rune sets that I've tested him in. I still have some other comps to try and test him into. Of course, you're a little bit more limited in your testing during 20-star Special League. I don't know if he's going to have much of a place in guild content in the game for many of the same reasons. So probably still got a lot of testing to do to figure out some areas of the game where we might be able to use him. Okay, now we're going to just do a quick run through of all the unruined monsters. I focused a lot of my 6 stars on LDs because they tend to have the best stats, but not all of them are great monsters, so a lot of times they just wind up getting built and then left unruined or waiting for some future date. So I just 2A'd the Zhao Ling a few days ago. I haven't gotten a chance to toy around with her yet. I 2A'd Escher, but I really didn't find him to be all that great. He can be, but you have to give him amazing runes and build a team just for him. And I prefer monsters that can kind of mix it up in different teams instead of requiring their own specific comp. The Light Homunculus I just don't have skilled, so it's not runed. Diva is, I haven't really played with Diva since the Twins nerf, but Diva wasn't actually that good before the nerf, so I'm thinking still not good. The Misty I haven't played with, but I know Ace played with it after he got buffed and told me that he wasn't good, so I didn't go back to it. Dova is a decent Special League monster if you build a bomber comp. Lu Mei, another kind of monster that just really needs a buff, to be honest. Pang just doesn't really fit the current meta. Arya is actually a really nice monster. I want to build a Succubus team, and I just got Arya. I got Arya probably about a month ago, but I just haven't gotten around to building her yet. But that is one that I will rune. Driller is just not really a very good monster. One of my first 6 stars, it was like one of my first LDs. I 6-starred him because a website online said he was great, and he wasn't. So then we've got Lin. The Shren I actually built to test in one of the Kairos dungeons, but didn't have... the base attack is lower than Kali, so it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. Kabila is built just in case I ever want to do like a fast nuke team, but I don't have the right monsters quite for that team yet. Dragonov is an interesting monster, and I think Ace did a video on Dragonov, but it's another one of those monsters that you have to really build a comp for him, and he just doesn't have the flexibility. Belita, when I first drew Belita, I got so excited because I thought it was Martina, which is like my #1 monster, just period. Like LD 4-5, I don't care. Martina, #1 monster. Okay, Rahul. I'd rather have Rahul, but if you know what, if I had to choose between Martina and Ragdoll, I think I'd take Martina. Anyway, so I drew Belita. I thought I got Martina, got super excited, realized it wasn't. I built Belita for Wind Kairos dungeon just to change the invincibility on the boss, but Elsharion's a better... and it actually worked really well before the Twins nerf. Monty I just built during last Hall of Heroes, haven't gotten to toy with him yet. Carl I built to test in Light Rift, he didn't do enough damage. Isabel I built after her Hall of Heroes, and again, just too limited. You have to build a comp for her. Lynette, I just haven't gotten to mess around with yet. I do actually want to play around with Lynette. Groggo, I know a lot of people like him and feel he's strong. I'm not of the same opinion. If you give him like an amazing rune set, then he's a nice defense monster on 4-star siege bases, and that's kind of about it to me. Izael, I built just in case I built because I want to do that succubus team. Asillin, I actually used on a very old Necro team. He was like my best monster for shield breaking Necro for a long time. The Basalt I built for Dimensional Hole, I think. He was in one of my Dimensional Hole teams. The Zinc I built and just never used it. And I think he's actually a really good monster. It's just one that I just never got around to testing out much, to be honest. Jamie I built about a month ago, and I do kind of want to toy around with him. He's way too RNG based for my taste. I'll never use him consistently, but he looks like a fun monster to kind of mess around with, so I built him. And that's it for the showcase videos, guys. As always, I appreciate you watching. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you've got some better LDs than me. I made it through the whole video without talking about any monsters I wanted, I think, except for Martina and Rahul. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. But no, anyway, seriously, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please pop that subscribe button over on the left. It shows me that you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, it shows me that you found the information useful and hopefully it helped you in your gameplay. So here's the deal. You pop subscribe and I'll keep popping out content. Thanks guys.